welcome to the sleepover. Let's talk about fanfiction. When I was younger, I was an avid member of the One Direction fandom and spent most of my spare time reading fanfiction on a website called Wattpad. If you are unfamiliar, Wattpad is an online literature platform intended for users to be able to read and write their own original content, but it became popular when it became the known hotspot for fanfiction. My journey with fanfiction began when I was a very young and very impressionable 10-year-old who had way too much spare time on my hands. Wattpad introduced younger me to a lot of themes and topics that I was generally unaware of and also too young to grasp the concept of. In using the website, I was introduced to a lot of graphic topics of sexual nature by reading stories that included chapters that had smut in them. But I was also exposed to unrealistic and harmful expectations of romance. When we hone into these romance patterns found on Wattpad, we can see that these young authors are predominantly writing pieces of work that work to glamorize violence and also give an unhealthy idea of how someone should be treated by those around them. What got me interested in this topic was a case study done in 1986 by a social psychologist who reviewed a diverse set of evidence and found that consistent exposure of an unfamiliar stimuli increased the likelihood of an individual liking that stimuli. So essentially, when younger people who are in these very impressionable age brackets consistently absorb media that works to glamorize violence and excuse graphic themes such as sexual or physical violence, binge drinking, or drug use, they are more likely to seek out and indulge in these things. Today I wanted to take a walk back down memory lane and look at some of the most popular fanfictions on Wattpad. Together I thought we could analyze these stories and talk about the toxic culture that was harbored by the website. But before we begin, I do want to clarify that in no way do I blame these authors for intentionally trying to cause harm. A lot of the authors on Wattpad were just young teenagers who were feeding into the environment that was created on the website. This video is more a commentary on the toxic culture that was harbored by the site rather than a direct personal attack of these authors. Chapter 1: The Broken Boy That You Could Save. A common plot tool used within many Wattpad fanfictions is the use of the broken boy. This tool was often used in a way to present violent behavior in a way that indicated that the poor behavior came as a result from childhood trauma. A direct result of this within these stories was that the love interest of the violent character was then placed in a position that resembled that of a therapist. Their main purpose within the story wasn't to be a love interest, but it was to be a love interest who could fix and help the broken boy navigate his own trauma. Not only does this negatively spread the message that there is an excuse and a reason for abuse or violence within a relationship, though it also solidifies this idea that people shouldn't leave toxic and/or abusive relationships because things may change and get better through persistent work. A fanfiction that really encapsulates this tool is a novel by Anna Todd called After. Now, After was originally a One Direction fanfiction, however it was picked up by a major publishing company, turned into a book, and then picked up by Voltage Studios and turned into a 5-part movie series. Now, because After started as a One Direction fanfiction, when they wanted to then turn this fanfiction into a public novel and profit off of the work, they had to change the name of Harry Styles' character to Harden. So as I continue to talk about this story, instead of saying Harry Styles, I'm going to use the character's name of Harden so it's a little bit less confusing. The novel After follows a young girl named Tessa as she navigates her first semester at her new college. Though as she is navigating this first semester, she runs into the mysterious and rebellious Harden. She is won over by his bad boy behavior and spends the rest of her time at college navigating their very turbulent relationship. Delving deeper into this novel, it is extremely clear from the get-go that Harden's character is very manipulative. We first meet him inside of Tessa's shared college dorm when she comes out of the bathroom wrapped in only a towel to find Harden sprawled out on her roommate's bed. Now naturally, Tessa is in shock that someone is in her room and asks Harden to leave. He immediately refuses. This first interaction completely dismisses any boundaries that Tessa has, which is a consistent problem within their relationship in the series. Harden's most recognizable trait seems to be centered around his anger. He is often seen having extreme anger outbursts in which he breaks objects around him. Early in the novel, there is a scene in which Harden sees Tessa engaging with her ex-boyfriend and immediately is overcome with rage. In dealing with this rage, he runs to his father's home and begins to destroy heaps of things within the household. Tessa catches knowledge of these events and races over to the household in order to console Harden. Harden is overwhelmed with her presence and breaks a whiskey bottle right in front of her. Now, usually breaking an object in front of someone would be the first sign of violence and naturally would cause some alarm. though in this case it is glamorized as Hardin finally being vulnerable enough to talk to someone about what he's going through. It depicts this world in which people feel responsible to help others even when it is detrimental to their own mental health. It is revealed later in the novel that Hardin's actions stem from his childhood, in which his father was an alcoholic and was consistently abusive to the family. Hardin was exposed to a lot of abuse when he was a child and therefore holds on to that in his adult life by having these anger outbursts and consistent nightmares. The audience instantly feels empathy for Hardin when they learn of these things, though the novel completely ruins any chance of that empathy furthering when they excuse Hardin's violent behavior with this childhood trauma. He is often seen following his violent actions with extreme guilt, and every single time that he is violent, he opens up to Tessa a little bit more about his childhood, which makes her instantly feel bad for him and forgive him rather than holding him accountable for his actions. The novel depicts the love between Tessa and Hardin's trauma as romance. Tessa clearly expresses deep love for Hardin and therefore consistently sacrifices things in order to look after him and be there for him as he navigates his trauma. Although the impact of her doing this is extremely harmful to her own mental health. The novel is extremely harmful as it sends this message that lovers are responsible to fix their partners and must always be there to help aid them in the recovery of their trauma. The sacrifices that Tessa makes in order to ensure that Hardin is okay is often damaging to her own mental health, though it is depicted in a way that her putting Hardin and his trauma in front of herself is a sign of romance and undying love, rather than negligence to herself and her own needs. These ideas being shared in the media is already extremely harmful, though it is more harmful when the target audience is that of a very young and impressionable audience. Chapter number 2. Booger sugar. A theme that is often seen in fanfiction is the normalization of characters being involved with or indulging in hard drugs. It's common to see characters participate in substance abuse without any negative symptoms to their mental or physical health. The portrayal of drugs is often inaccurate on Wattpad. For example, there are scenes where characters will indulge in cocaine and only be high for around an hour and then never experience any come down or addiction symptoms. Although addiction is also very normalized and honestly glamorized within these works. A popular fanfiction that stands out for normalizing and glamorizing drug use is a One Direction fanfiction called Duplicity by an author named Jules. Duplicity is a One Direction fanfiction that follows the One Direction boys as they tour the world under their band Duplicity. We navigate our way through this story from the perspective of Avon Brooks. Avon is a young photographer who was hired by Duplicity to take photos for them on their tour. In doing this, she is hoping to get work experience so that she can get into an elite university of her dreams. Just like Tessa in the story after, Avon is also exposed to very violent and very cruel behavior from the fictional depiction of Harry Styles. Her life is often threatened by him and she is always walking on eggshells in order to make sure that she is safe. This book also follows the narrative of excusing poor behavior due to the circumstances of the characters at the time. It is later revealed in Duplicity that the band Duplicity isn't a band at all and is instead a cover-up for the band to be able to perform elaborate heists. It is revealed that each member is working alongside the mafia, and as the band Duplicity tours, they're using their tour buses to smuggle cocaine from country to country. There are multiple scenes within this story where they visit someone's apartment and the entire apartment is filled with cocaine. Although the act of smuggling cocaine is usually very dangerous, the band members suffer no repercussions if they are arrested, as the mafia bails them out of prison every single time without fail. The plot is very unrealistic, though the author is able to normalize the characters using these drugs as they are directly involved in the smuggling of them. As they are always surrounded by the drugs, it makes sense for the band members to dabble a little bit in them. As earlier said, we follow this story through the eyes of Avon Brooks, who is also the love interest of Harry. So therefore we spend a lot of time witnessing a lot of Harry's casual use of these drugs. There are multiple scenes in which Harry will snort a line of cocaine and then go about his night as if nothing has happened. A scene that really stands out within this novel is a scene in which we see Harry partake in the use of ecstasy. In this scene, Avon finds Harry in an overflowing bathroom in their hotel room. It is revealed later in the chapter that he has taken a large amount of pills and is believed to be having an overdose. Now usually the first thing you would do when someone is having an overdose is seek medical attention, though none of these characters in the story seem to be worried about Harry's well-being and no one seeks medical attention for him at all. The only help that they give him is that Avon gets into the bathtub with him, gives him a cuddle and then carries him to his tour bed where he lays for the rest of the night unmonitored. The next morning, Harry is written to have little to no repercussions from the night before. He is written as if he is only experiencing normal hangover symptoms, and all of his friends instantly forgive him for his behavior, as it is typical of Harry to do that. Now, it isn't uncommon for the media to touch on the topic of casual drug use and addiction. There are multiple films such as Beautiful Boy or Trainspotting that perfectly show the negative impact of drug use over an extended period of time. The show Euphoria touches on the theme of addiction and how this has a detrimental impact on someone and their mental health. Although the difference between these pieces of media and the works on Wattpad is simply how informative they are. With Euphoria and Trainspotting, we follow this detrimental cycle of addiction, relapse, and then eventually getting help. We follow these characters as they go through the highs and lows of their addiction, and especially their withdrawal symptoms when they eventually ask for help. The drug use is never glamorized and is instead showed in a very jarring and honest manner. Fanfiction, when touching on the topic of drugs, is often glamorized and normalized in a way that is very uncomfortable and very dishonest. The information on what these drugs are like when you use them is extremely inaccurate and works to present drugs in a really positive manner. Not only is it extremely harmful that the usage of these dangerous substances is being inaccurately explained to a younger generation, the fact that it is being presented through the lens of a celebrity is also extremely harmful. It is not uncommon for younger people to base a lot of their self-identity and style off of celebrities that they adore. So when we present these celebrities as endorsing drugs through a fictional lens, we are unintentionally positively spreading the message of drug use. Celebrities being written as using drugs because they are a bad boy with bad behavior is extremely damaging when being shared with a younger audience. Chapter 3. I hate everybody except for you. Another harmful narrative that is consistently shared in Wattpad fanfiction is the usage of a relationship between two people where one character is mean to everyone in their life except for their love interest. It is mainly depicted as one character hating everyone else around them and treating them with little to no respect while putting themselves entirely on the line for their love interest. The tool is unfortunate as it works to show this trait that is commonly found within abusive relationships in which one person is manipulated to not have a social life outside of their partner. Especially within these works, it is often that this tool is used to excuse sexist behavior. A popular fanfiction that really shows this behavior is a story that is written by Jules, who was the author of Duplicity. Now this story is called Malignant. The story follows a young girl named Amelia who is kidnapped by the gang Malignant and is forced to live underground with them. In her new environment, she is given the role of Harry's assistant and must clean his apartment and tend to his needs every single day. Throughout the novel, she experiences a severe case of Stockholm Syndrome and falls in love with her kidnapper, Harry. The beginning of this relationship is extremely turbulent due to the fact of how the characters came together. However, it is amplified by the consistent usage of sexist behavior from Harry. Now, in the underground world of Malignant, we are introduced to multiple buildings and shops that exist. The gang appears to have created a small village underground so that they can live out of the public eye. However, they have multiple buildings and shops and everything that they need to fill their needs as they would if they were living above ground. One of the buildings that we see is a strip club, which is frequently adorned with women outside of the front calling out to people in order to get them inside the building. Whenever Harry interacts with these women, it is with extremely little respect. He often talks to Amelia about these women and degrades them in their line of work and also goes so far as to call them WHORES. Great speller. Great speller, me. Alongside this blatantly sexist behavior, Harry consistently threatens Amelia with the fact that if she doesn't tend to his needs as his assistant, she'll be forced to become a stripper like these poor women. The disregard for women and the usage of casual sexism is so unnecessary, but the more that it is used, the more it encourages readers to feel the same way and mimic these ideas and behaviors. Showcasing this sexist behavior under the guise of romance and only having respect for your partner is so incredibly damaging to young, impressionable minds. Instead of presenting an understanding world of kindness and respect for everyone around us, the readers are being spoon-fed a disgusting narrative of hatred under the false pretense of a romantic gesture. Not only does it promote the idea that we should have negative views on women, especially those who are brave enough to work within the sex worker industry, it also encourages this idea that you should commit yourself entirely to your partner through the act of sacrificing everything around you, even if the thing that you are sacrificing is basic respect for human beings. The conclusion. In conclusion, Wattpad is a dangerous world of literature for young people to be indulging in. Culture found on Wattpad often presents a really unhealthy expectation of how one should be treated and how they should treat those around them. Fanfiction and the negative messages shared within these works is definitely a product of its time and also a product of the toxic environment that was created on Wattpad and various other fanfiction sites. There isn't an end in sight for fanfiction, with multiple chapters of different stories still being uploaded to the website daily. However, with a little bit of knowledge and a whole lot of care, we can definitely help to protect young children from the harmful world of fanfiction. I've been Jojo, good night.